Oceania Lecture 1.
Okay, Australia, New Zealand, and the South Pacific. Is anyone from this part of the world? It's pretty far away. Has anyone traveled to this part of the world? Yeah, where have you been? To Australia. Awesome, where in Australia? Oh, it's all good, trust me. People. Okay, we get to koala. I want you to talk about it because I'm very excited. A picture of a koala. Anyone else who has been to this part of the world? Awesome! Who else has been to this part of the world?
I've been in Australia, like Melbourne, Sydney, a lot of times. Went to New Zealand when I was like 2, and went to
Yes. We'll talk a moment about Tasmania and New Zealand when you're 2. Still counts though, right? None of us do.
This Hawaii.
For this, yeah, because we include that in U.S. and we include that. Well, that's a good question. Who here has been to Hawaii? Raise your hand. Okay, quite a few. And actually, being from California, Hawaii was actually easier for me to get to Hawaii than to get to Florida, so we went to Hawaii quite a bit. So that's a good question. We'll talk about Hawaii today a little bit and also with North America. So that's a good question. Yeah? Yes. So that's who? So cool. On vacation, surfing, diving. Yeah, actually, because I've had some students who were there for surfing, and see a picture of someone, her boyfriend was in a surf contest. So very cool that you were there. So, but you were surfing. That part's cool enough. Yes?
What is the lower right?
Yap. Okay, so yap. Pardon me? No, that is the whole word. And that's a good question, because everybody else is probably like, well, if I'd paid attention, I might have thought that was weird, too. Anyone know what Yap is? It's an island, okay, and it is called Yap. And actually, years ago, I heard there was a place called Yap, and I was like, oh, who would want to go to some place called Yap? That is my picture, so I went. So, good question, though, right? A lot of this is foreign and different. Okay, so we have some people who have been there. I've spent time in New Zealand and Oceania, and Australia is on the list for the people who've been to Australia. Okay. So, and this is what this is a picture of. Is I'm in Yap. This is a traditional island. However, I'm there on a day that they are wearing traditional clothes. So normally, when you're walking around, you wouldn't have women this age wearing stuff like this, but old women, they would be wearing, their skirts would be brown and they would be topless. So some of these pictures look a little more traditional than it is in many ways. And there is a lot of tradition. So these are women, it's Yap Day, and they're peeking out to see what the dancers are doing. Let's a little sneak from behind. Didgeridoo. For those of you who came in when it was just the jocular music, yes. So that's music, okay? A didgeridoo. What does a didgeridoo look like? That's the instrument. Yeah.
It's like
Yeah, a long tube. And the didgeridoo, this is from Australia. And also, you guys are going to want to keep it straight today. I'm going to talk about Australia, New Zealand, and the South Pacific. So you want to keep straight.
Now, that's probably something that you should be aware of. It's a casual, recall is easy, didgeridoo. It's just a long tube, makes noise.
Aborigines are from Australia. Okay, so this is an Australian Aboriginal instrument. And it makes that sound. That little globalization, you can learn the didgeridoo.
And the Aborigines would be a term you need to know. They are the natives of Australia, all dark-skinned.
Do. So if anyone in here feels like, wow, I'd really love to learn how to make that music, you can get a whole CD collection. And if you go to the website, they've got quotes from people, and this one guy said, "Thanks for getting my dids to me so fast." Sorry. So, but also, when we talk about globalization, you don't have CDs, you don't have a website, you don't sell this stuff to people here unless there is interest. So clearly this comes from the bony bonies in Australia, and it's here, and it's very present in our culture. Okay, so Oceania. So that is going to include Australia, New Zealand, the South Pacific Islands. Now, for the Pacific Islands, this, you do need to know that there is Melanesia. All those things that are listed under it.
Okay, Melanesia is this cluster of islands: New Guinea, Solomon Islands, Fiji. They're all listed right here. You should be aware of the fact that that is an area called Melanesia, just like you know that this is Australia and this is New Zealand. Okay, those are the kinds of things that show up indirectly on the test.
You don't have to know those for the test, okay? So as you can see, you've got your Fiji, woo-hoo, good surf spot, I assume. And you've got Micronesia, and you have Polynesia.
Now, the islands that she talked about not knowing for the test were all the other little ones. Now you have the explanation of Micronesia, which, as you can see, there will be a few islands here, which she'll emphasize anything that's important, and Polynesia, which is the small islands that we're talking about that she'll mention during the lecture. Major islands you would want to know.
Again, those are listed just to give you a sense of what is in those places. You need to know generally where they are. As you saw last time, there's not a map on the test. So, Pacific Islands, Melanesia, Micronesia, and Polynesia, and that's how they divide up. Landforms and landscapes.
Okay, I want to back up now, just briefly, to go to the actual importance of that last slide. These four areas, Polynesia, Micronesia, Melanesia, and the Pacific Islands, are all in this Oceania area, along with New Zealand and Australia. That's a fact that you need to be aware of.
Pacific Islands, Melanesia, Micronesia, and Polynesia, and that's how they divide up. Landforms and landscapes. This picture is Palau. Again, another. Well, who here has heard of Palau? Cool. Okay. Pardon me? No, I think there were 3 of you, which is not bad. So Palau, this is where I did the second half of my sabbatical. And I'm going over the islands, and I'm in a little airplane. And I don't like little airplanes. I go on various of them in different places where I work. That's the only way to get to certain places. And they're small, and the idea that you could feels really present. So we're going in, and people I was like, we're not going on a boat. And I was like, oh. So we're going in the airplane, and this is the view. And it is so beautiful when you're looking at that, and you're soaring over this blue water and these green islands, and you're just, oh, you're like, I love little planes. And then we were coming back, and there was so much turbulence. And I was like, I don't care. I hate islands. I hate blue water. I'm like, please, 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 let me get back. Oh, it was horrible, terrible, and not worth it. So I'm glad I had that on the way there. Trust me, I had seen that before I went. Who has seen Castaway? Okay, yes, let's just say that was very present in my mind for this whole trip. And there are a lot of coconuts. Okay, so Australia, starting with the Eastern Highlands.
Okay, now these are the kinds of questions you'll see. This is a major geographical area of Australia. She'll talk about it now.
You have these old folded mountains. They've been crunched up. And then you have a steep escarpment. What's an escarpment? Seem
Know
like
that?
it would be. It's basically just a cliff. Okay, you have a steep cliff, and what's happened is because New Zealand has
Cliff.
broken away, so you have a cliff right at the edge there. And in this area, you're going to have high snowy mountains. Sometimes people don't think of Australia that way. So we're moving over to the interior lowlands.
Here's a
Australia's
picture.
outback. So this is kind of, for me, when I think of Australia, this is what comes to mind. So hot and dry. But there's something that makes this place much more habitable than others. You have the Great Artesian Basin, which is an aquifer. Who's just heard of the word an aquifer? You just kind of heard it, kind of maybe. Okay.
Term to know.
Anyone give it a shot of what is an aquifer?
Term to know.
Perfect. An underground pocket of water. So you have an underground area of water that is not seeping in. So you have an impermeable surface. Now what you have?
There's the key words. An underground reservoir. Impermeable surface. That means that nothing can penetrate the land above it. So it is buried water.
You have to have an impermeable, so you have to have rock or something that is impermeable, thing where the water can't get through underneath it. Now, anyone know what artesian is? You know, you get artesian water, probably some of the water bottles in here are artesian. Okay.